In our earlier tutorial, we talked about two types of image and how we can manage or consume our image in various ways. So let's see how can we download our image from internet and how can we show the download progress bar and download the image after the progress bar is complete. So let's see how can we do that. Remove the at first before we download our image, we have three options. That means at first we have to learn how can we show image in our DOM preview. For example, I have an input field, type is file. Now if I have input field type is file, that means I have input a file. Let's see, save a file. Then I have to import a file. This is a image file. For example, this is an image file. Now when we create this image or when we load this image, we want to show the image immediately in our DOM. For that I have to use this way, like on change, actually image handler, constant file from event.target.files. If I console log the fi file, now let's see what we get. Now if I try to consume any picture, for example this one, I can see my image appears in my DOM, but this image is a Blob image or Blob image, Blob file. So let's see how can we show our image from this file image or Blob image. For that we have two ways. The simple way is that URL dot create object URL, then I have to put a blob, but we know that file is one type of blob. So if I put the blob this way, file, now my image are available in my data URL. For example, if I console log this time URL, if I save my file, refresh the page, I can see my image appears in this way. So let's see, copy this line, and if I paste the value, if I enter, I can see that we can consume our image by our data URL. So let's see, our images are available. Now how can we apply this image in our DOM? For that I have to use a use state hook. Constant image set image use state. My initial value is empty string. So let's create an image tag here. Image source is equal to image and need alt tag. Now if I save my file, I can see there is nothing, but I have to set or update our state from these values. So image data URL, no need console log anymore. Actually let's put the console log. We see if I load an image, I can see immediately my image appears in my DOM. Now this is one way. We have another way. Let's comment out these two lines. We have another way to consume or preview our image on the DOM. For that, I have to create file reader component, and it return a instance called reader, and reader reader dot read as dataURL. Now I have to pass the same file. That means I have to put here file. Now if I pass this value, it will trigger to read a file from a value from a file, because reading a file is a time consuming. So I have to wait when my file completely loaded. For that I have to apply an event. So reader dot onload reader dot ready state is equal to 2. That means my file is fully loaded. If my file is fully loaded, then I need to modify this line. That means my set state value will be this one. Now my reader, to see my value, I have to use the reader dot result value result property for my reader component. So it shows an error because I have here. So let's move this line here. Let's console log reader dot result here. If I save my file, refresh my page, remove this warning, it is nothing. Open a file, I can see my API, my image appears in my DOM, and this time I get a long string. This string is called the base 64. You can see this is the data, this is the image format or the MIME type, and this is the encoding system. That means it is used 64-bit encoding. We will talk about how what is the difference between the base 64 image and encoding and the blob. In our early tutorial, when we use the create blob, it returns a binary data. So actually this is blob array and the file. This is the same as original because the file is a blob. So when we have a blob, it return a binary data, but when we consume by dataURL, it will consume our image as a base 64-bit data. That means we can put this image as a text file. We can read this image as a text file. Let's say copy this line from here to in the beginning, select this file, copy this message, go to another page. I can see my same page appears. That means this is the image data in a text format or a 64-bit encoded format. So now we can see that we have two ways to show data in my DOM, because this data is also known as a dataURL. That means we can use this data in as an image. We add the data in our image file. That is the reason our image appears in my DOM. So now we learned that how can we preview our image in our DOM. So we learn another step before our consuming our image from the internet. we need to learn another concept. Let's comment out this 2 line, or actually no need to comment, remove this extra or messy stuff, so our image is so much neat and clean. Refresh the page, or no image. Now suppose I have image here. Now how can I download an image? For example, let's see, before in a simple image like a tag and download. For example, for that I have a href attribute and I have to put the image name. Let's see, I try to download our image from my logo.svg for my public folder. So how can we access our public folder image? For the slash, that means the public image, then logo.svg. Now if I save my file, it will create an anchor point, that means clickable file. So how can we our target is to download this file by clicking this button. So if I click this button, I can see I am showing that image. So if I add a property called download, if I save my file, this time when I click this button, I can see my image is saved in my folder. For example, a download folder, actually not this one, I have lot of images, remove all. If I click this button, I can see my image downloaded. So this is the regular way, or how can we download local image? So I have to download image by programmatically. So let's, before to learn programmatically, I have another way to download an image. For example, button. Let's create a button here. Download. If I save my file, this is the same as a link tag. The only difference is we put the button inside our link tag. But this time we do not want to download our image by the link tag. We will try to download our image programmatically. That means we no need enter tag anymore. I need to download image when I click this button. So I need to enter a click handler. Click handler. Let's create a file, function. Handler. Now I have to create a property called anchor tag. So use document dot create element called a. So let's name link element. So I have to create the same situation. That means actually I remove the link from here. So we know that we need an href and attribute with my anchor tag. So I have to link el dot href, and I have to put the image name. If I need to put image for my source folder, then I have to put this way, logo. I have to import the logo from here. Actually, why this error? Link link element, link is not defined. That means I mistype link el. Now I have a href attached in my file. So then I have to add the download property. So dot download is equal to image, whatever name we want, and now I have to add the click event. So for that I have to dot click. Now if I save my file, now this time this button do not have anchor, but we will create the anchor by DOM in this way. Now if I click this file, I can see I am downloading the file, the same name as we applied in my download property. So I have downloading my file. So this is the two concept before we go to the download file from the external source. Let's see how can we download an image from our external internet, so external link. For that, let's remove all things, because we actually, let's comment out these things because we need this code again, though we create from fly. So for that, if suppose I have an image, google.com, let's say we try to use this image or any image, for example computer image. Let's see this image. If I click this button, I can see the copy link. Copy the link. Now if I go to my, when we click this button, we need to fetch image, that means click handler. Let's comment out this line. We have a link, that means image URL is equal to, I paste the link that we copied from our Google website. So I have an image link, so I have a fetch property, the fetch API to access our image. So let's image URL. Now we know that fetch API is return a promise, so I have to resolve that promise then method, or we can use sing and await method. We will do the same thing later. So when we consume our image from our fetch API, we know that it returns a buffer. So or we call this name as a response. It is a common name. So I have to convert this buffer image into a blob image. That similar thing, that when we try to consume our image from our change handler, it returns that event target files returns a blob. So the fetch property or fetch API also return a blob. Fetch returns a buffer, so we have to convert this buffer into blob. So response dot blob, it has a blob property. Now let's create another deniable method. This time I have blob. Let's console log the blob. Before it will throw an error, because why? Let's see. For that I have to catch method. Catch method. So console.log. If I save my file, if I go to my page, if I download, click this download button, it will throw an error. This error appears, it is called CROS original error. CROS origin. That means when we create any website, our JavaScript cannot access that website unless we have enabled the CROS origin. So when we talk about Node.js or backend server, we will talk about the CROS origin. But for now, CROS origin, that means CROS origin resource sharing. That means it is a rules that prevent to access other websites content. This CROS origin by default enabled in every browser. So if we try to consume any API by browser and that website do not allow CROS origin, then we will see this kind of error. but this only happens when we try to use by a browser. But if we try to use by node package or any server-side code, then we do not see this error. So now we understand that we cannot consume any picture that available in the internet. So we have to consume in such a picture or image that has CROS origin enabled. For that, we cannot go to the Google and directly copy any image. For that, I have to copy similar way, this type of way, that CROS enable image. It will show some example, but this I am not facing this kind of scenario. Let's go to the unsplash. So unsplash by default enable the CROS. So if I download any image from this website, we can access that image. For example, let's consume this image. If I copy, actually let's see, consume a big image, because when we try to if we go to the loop, now let's see, try to consume this image. It is a big image, so copy the image link similar way. Now if I go to my application, change the image tag, Ctrl V. If I save my file, refresh my page, if I click the download button, now it shows my data. That means it will not throw the error, CROS origin error, because the unsplash website by default allow the CROS origin. So now I have the image in my click event handler here. Now how can we show our, this is a blob data, so how can we show our this image into our DOM? So we already discussed there, like this way. So I have to copy paste these two lines and put these two lines here. So this time my image name is Blob, so I have to change the file is equal to Blob, console log the Blob. Now actually not is a blob, it is a data URL. Now if I save my file, when I click this button, I can see the image appears in my DOM. So now it is the first method when we try to consume our image. Now let's see how can we download this image. To download our image, I have to create the same this kind of code. Let's see, copy paste this code inside this blob, inside this then blob. Now here anchor tag, okay, this href. Now the value is the data URL, so data URL, and the name is image and click event handler. Everything is fine. If I save my file, now let's see, I have three images. Let's delete them. Now if I click this button, refresh the page, click this button, my image appears and already my image downloaded. That means this is my image, we can see. Let's close the image. Now our target is to show the download progress bar when we try to download this image. So now let's handle how can we show the progress bar. So let's comment out all three things. This entire block. Now before when we need to download our image, show the progress bar, then I have to modify in this block. That means directly after the fish block. So remove the constant let's see how can we access the file. For that I have to response dot body dot reader, get reader. So we already talked about how can we handle our reader. That means actually I remove that code because that we create a reader in a file reader by file reader constructor. So if we save this file, we will get reader this way. Now if I create another property, so buffer is equal to reader dot read method, it will return and promise. Actually here I am handling promise with a then method. So let's see, we do the same thing with the then method. Later we will convert this then method with callable method. So I have a then method here. So we know it returns the buffer. So buffer. Let's see console log the buffer. If I save my file, now if I refresh my page or click the download button, I can see I have a buffer. In this buffer I have a two property. One is a done, another is a value. The value is the binary data. That means it is a blob. The same. This is a blob. Blob always return the binary data. So I have to handle this property. So I have two property. One is a done, another is a value. So I have to confuse this way. Say I have a value. So if buffer.value, then buffer.value.length will be constant downloaded size. This one. For that I have to put this download file here. Actually I have to create let keyword and create the download size is 0 by it is the default value, and next time we will print this value. Now this way we will because when we try to consume our any image, it will consume image chunk by chunk. That means it do not consume entire image in a single shot. It will fetch image chunk by chunk. So we will store our value buffer value range. That means we try to count how many data or chunk we downloaded. So for that let's create another property called let's total file size is equal to response dot headers dot get property, and I have a content length. See content length. Before that let's console log so that we can see total file size. If I save my let's see console log this line also. So for that, after this line, downloaded size or downloaded file size, if I save my file, now let's clear this. If I click this button, I can see this is the total file size. That means this log, and this is the chunk file size. That means the data fetch in single fetch, the data chunk fetch in a single time. So I have to fetch all the data one by one. So for that I have to actually before that I create a percentage value. So constant percentage is equal to downloaded file size DOWN downloaded file size भाग divided by total file size. Now wrap the output. Now it will be multiplied by 100. It will be the percentage value. So let's pin this value. That means I have this will be the downloaded file size, then slash, then the total file size, then show the percentage value, show the actually percentage now add the percentage size here, sign here. Now if I save my file, let's see that how many we consume. If I click this button, I can see this is my consume, that means a chunk, or this is the total file, and I am fetching 17%. That means I have to fetch rest 83% more. So for how can we do that? For that I have to use a method, programming method is called recursive. That means I have to put a recursive function. For that, remove this log. I have to put this function. Actually this function is this long, so I have to put this function constant read chunk, read chunks or chunk. Now I have created this function. I have to call this function here, read chunk. Now we saw that we have two property in buffer. One is a value and another is done. That means when we consume 100%, then our done value will be true. So I have to create a condition here. If buffer.done, that buffer.done.true, if true, that means if not true, then invoke this function again. That means I have to invoke, this is called read chunk, read this chunk. That means until my value is going to done, I have to consume this value again and again and again, and when it's done I just get the value. So if I save my file, if I refresh my click this button, I can see it is only written 86. That means we need another, refresh the page, 100%. That means it returns in two chunk return my complete output. So my image is downloaded. Now I have to show this value or every chunk in my progress bar. So for that I have to create a progress bar. Let's see, create a progress bar here. Actually let a line break, another one here. So create a progress bar. For that HTML has a progress component, so element progress, and it has three value. One is mean value 0, max value 100, and the value will be the percentage. So it will be the progress value. we do not create this variable. Let's create this variable as a state value, so that every state change appears here. So it progress value set progress value is equal to, by default progress value will be 0. So if I save my file, I can see I have a progress bar. So if I try to update this value to like 0 to 30 or 20, I can see it shows a progress. So I have to update this value for every chunk. That means here, when I have a value, I have to set progress value will be buffer, actually not the buffer, percentage value. That means the percentage value, percentage. Now if I save my file, if I download this button, I can see actually why it is hang. It do not proceed. That means I have to return. Actually for that it is a promise. So promise need to fulfill one by one. Let's refresh the page, click this button, it returns in single format. So let's solo our network, refresh the page. For that network, try to download in a solo network, regular 2G, and disable the cache. If I go to this line, now I can see that every chunk shows the download progress. Click this button again. Actually it should be 100%. That means I have to promise. That means it is a promise. So I have to return this promise as a return, and I have to call the return here, and I have to return here too. If I save my file, let's download this button again. What is the problem? If I solo 3G or 2G, click this button, this value do not increase. That means I miss something. This value dot length. Actually I have to put this outside my function. That means I have to put here outside of my this function, chunk function, because else it will modify every time. So no need console log here. So if I save my, actually now everything is fine. If I save my file, click this button, I can see my progressing appears. That means I am downloading with Progressbar chunk by chunk. Now I have the download, what is called, I have the image available. So I cannot use here another then method like this method to download our file. Let's see, check out this method. It will throw an error. If I save my file and try to download the image again, actually it works. Let's remove these two images. No, it doesn't work, because this time my image is empty. So why this is not working? Because is, let's comment out this 3 line, this all line. Just try to console log the blob. We will get no blob, because if actually let's go to the console, remove the log. There is a log, no need this log. So if I save my file, let's try to download this file, and it will throw an error. It is undefined. That means we do not have anything in my blob because we already consume our blob here. So how do I handle that? We have to, this is our blob data. That means if I console log here, buffer.value, if I save my file, now remove this blob because we know that it will return nothing. If I download this button again, I can see my every data chunk by chunk appears here. That means my data are available in my data buffer.value. So I have to put this data inside a variable. Let's create a variable here outside of my fish function. Constant data chunks as an array. Now every time we will push this data chunks dot push. Every time we get the value, we will push that value into my data variable, and after the data variable we will try to consume here data chunk. Now it will return our data here. There is no console log? No, nothing. If I click this file, console log, now I can see this time my data appears in my console log. That means I am passing my pushing my data in my variable, and after inside my then method I access the data. Now I have the data. Now I can create or download my data this way. So let's uncomment this line, data chunk. This line is uncomment for now. No, I have to uncomment this line too. So I have to put data chunk, this data chunk as inside the blob. So I have to chunk. But we already know that data chunk is an array. So data chunk is array. So I do not create extra array, or I can copy that data chunk value inside an array. So this is fine, or it is extra code, so no problem. If I save my file, now I already set my image. That means my state value will be available or change. That means image will be available when my image download, and when the image download, it will be save the download image in my file. So if I go to my here, if I download this time, download the image, I can see my image downloaded immediately in my DOM, in my file, and also it appears in my DOM. So we will understand how can we consume network data. We face the CROS origin error, so I have to choose error image so that it allows the CROS origin. So this is a mess actually, because I do not use the callable method or this type of method. I always prefer the promise, that means the sync await. So let's convert this promise into our sync await function. So let's see how can we do that. For that, at first we no need, I have to go to the fish method at first. It will be a promise, so move here, and the response will be available here. So for that I have to create a sync function so that I can promise here. That means this line, so it will be constant response. So this deniable method appears here, so it is a promise, so I have to wait. Now my response is outside in my variable, so I no need the response here. So remove the deniable method here, actually it create lot of problems. So for that I have to remove code outside of my then. Oops, it create a nested code and the then function here. So I have to remove the then function, then block, and also this method. This is my first chunk. Now let's convert this other blob other than method. So for that, no need blob, I have to create the blob. Before our data blob, I have to response. It is also another promise, so let's solve this promise. So the reader.read it return a promise. So I have to buffer outside, and it will be need await and async. So this stuff is done. So I no need this then block. So that means my code will be outside of my buffer block. So now another one, let's nested right. So this function, it is a promise, so I actually no need return, so I have to await because it is a promise. So this one and this one also it need to return, so no problem. Or actually this function is a asynchronous function, so we do not need, I have to await. So this chunk is ready. Now I have to go to this block. For this block I no need blob, that means blob comes, the blob value comes from here. Remove the console log. Actually there no need the blob because my data comes from the data chunk. So remove this line and this line and remove the clause, so it will be the same. If I save my file, let's create little bit indentation. Everything is fine. Nested code, so I have to one level deep indent, then everything is fine. So if I save my file, let's see, this code will be little bit indented. If I save my file, let's see, it's return the same output. So refresh the page. Actually when I refresh the page, it will my network tab is disabled or regular, so it will take some time. So let's solo the network connection again. Now click this download button, download and download. That means it works similar way. And that's it. In our next tutorial we will learn another React concept. Let's see in our next tutorial.